Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining. We are set for a huge day in the markets. I'm sure a lot of you already heard the news with GameStop by now, but this stock just straight up exploded in after hours yesterday. It went from like $130 all the way up to highs of $175. Right now it's lingering right around $160, but they had pretty crazy news come out. They had news related to them opening an NFT marketplace, and we all know how cryptocurrency, blockchain, and NFTs have just been like all of the hype lately. And GameStop as a short squeeze slash hype stock. This news is pretty good, and it definitely sent the stock higher. Long story short, they're coming out with good news. They plan to open up an NFT marketplace for like character outfits and all that stuff. And GameStop recently has been definitely been shifting more into like blockchain, NFTs, and cryptocurrencies, which it's all the hype. So it's definitely helping the stock.
Yeah, it really is. It's really good news for it, and it really drove it up this morning and even last night. But I cannot believe we were hitting 175 on GameStop. And, Mike, it even kind of bled over into some of the other hype stocks. Like I saw BlackBerry was doing pretty good yesterday, along with AMC. Now, those ones pulled back a little bit more than GameStop, but I would say AMC is still setting up pretty decent. But yeah, GameStop is still the big mover. And honestly, it's right around this 160 support. I hope it ends up holding this, and I hope it really gets a nice pop, because that's pretty good news with the NFTs, Mike. I know that DraftKings even got into that a little while ago too.
For sure. So looking at the market today, it's not looking great, but it's not looking terrible. The S&P 500 or the SPY is up 0.01% right now, so it is extremely flat. There isn't too much like momentum to the upside or the downside. Like there's a couple stocks that are trending higher, there's a couple stocks trending lower, but we had some pretty bad data come out today. We can see Tom has it pulled up on CNBC right now, but basically we could see the headline, hiring falters in December as payrolls rise only 199,000, and then they were expected to rise by 422,000. So this was a huge miss by the non-farm payrolls, but one of the positives is that the unemployment rate dropped to 3.9%, which was better than the 4.1% estimate, and wages did rise, which is also good to see. But this was a huge miss by the non-farm payrolls, and the market's just I don't know, I guess it doesn't know how to digest that type of news.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And it kind of took a bit of a dip this morning early on, like when the news first came out, but then we got a bit of a pop back to the upside. Personally, I'm kind of looking for a break of support today. Like, man, if the SPY falls below this 466 support, I don't think it's going to be good today, and we might see a bit of a sell-off happen. So hopefully it ends up holding this support and goes back up, but this is not good news, and I'm definitely going to look for the market to pop down a little bit more. And I believe tech was looking a little bit worse in pre-market. Yeah, you can see tech really dipped down, but as we saw, it did come back up a little bit.
For sure. So, some industries are doing good, some are not. Like the one group of stocks that's still looking good is actually the China stocks right now. BABA's up 3% to start the day. They had a pretty decent gap up, but these China stocks have been looking pretty hot lately.
Yeah, they have, like Baidu, Baba, Queb, even like FXI. I've been liking all of them. And look at Baidu, actually. Baidu is starting to get some good momentum. I know that Vicky has been talking about this one quite a bit, Mike, and it is starting to fly up a little bit here. And honestly, it's been holding this support that we have been looking at around 135 to 140 a ton on this chart. Like it double bottom down here, and it's just a fantastic setup in my opinion. Like it looks pretty bullish the way that it's going up. That was a bit of like a bullish flag setup there, and it's starting to really break out today. I really like this one.
There we go. Alrighty, so it looks like we have Mike saying I'm averaging in on more Apple. It's historically speaking a really smart move. Apple's such a powerhouse. It's definitely struggling right now, but if it's a long-term play, it's definitely a pretty smart move. And then Mike also said, what are the chances of Amazon splitting sometime this year? So that's an interesting question, and I know that the leaders at Amazon have been pretty against a split historically, but I know Bezos is, he has stepped down. So I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't even know where to start to put like a percentage on that question. But I don't know. I feel like if Amazon did split, it could definitely bring in a lot of good hype, even though it doesn't really change the company too much. But when Apple and Tesla split, what was that? Almost 2 years ago, Tom. That was pretty big for both of those companies.
Yeah, it was. And I really think that Amazon might do that eventually. Like, I know that they haven't done it historically, but I really feel like that their share price is getting a little bit too high. And, as these new stocks come onto the market, especially a lot of these growth stocks, it's just going to take away from Amazon, I think. So I think it would be smart if they, went ahead and did that. But with fractional shares and everything, you would think it wouldn't matter. But in the end, I guess a lot of people just don't look at fractional shares.
But Tom, think about it this way. So you're 100% right with that. But like, let's say Amazon, let's say just like a normal retail trader wanted to trade Amazon right now. And specifically if we're looking at their stock, it's one of the most expensive stocks in the market. So that cuts off a lot of people because a lot of people don't even know about fractional share investing. But let's say we look at the options, like a normal retail trader is not trading Amazon options. Like an at the money Amazon call that expires in 2 weeks costs like $7,000. Like it's like no retail trader is trading that. But let's say Amazon did like a 10-for-1 split, and instead of having a stock that's trading at 3,300, let's say it was trading at 330, right? Like those options prices would be reduced significantly, and I feel like that would open the doors for a lot more retail traders, like especially in the options market, to trade Amazon, and then it would make the chain a lot more liquid because since Amazon's options are so expensive, like their chain is kind of illiquid.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I think that that would really help the options as well, Mike. Like that does make sense. And that's a really good point, actually. And I really hope that they do split personally. Like I was kind of predicting that they would have over the past year, but they ended up not doing it. And I just, I really think that they will eventually. I'm not sure if they'll do it this year or not, but, I will say though that I would say that they should, especially from a strategy perspective. And with Bezos stepping down, I think that they might have a higher chance to than with him there.
True. And like another thing too, like even though splits don't really change anything about the company, like the valuation stays exactly the same, it does bring in more liquidity and then also it brings in hype. Like I know we mentioned like a couple minutes ago how Tesla and Apple split, like their stocks are running off of that. So I think that'll be interesting. Definitely a great topic, Mike. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. But Tom, looking at some of the movers today, we actually have DraftKings in the green by a decent amount. Like, it's kind of weird to say because over the past couple months, it's just been DraftKings red, DraftKings down 5%, DraftKings down 7%. But we're green, Tom.
Man, if we could have a double continuation here, I would be so happy. It's been so long since we've seen DraftKings moving with this type of momentum, and it's honestly really good to see. And I know that they had that really good news yesterday, Mike, where apparently they're going to be releasing their mobile sports betting app this Saturday in New York. That's pretty big news, and it came as a bit of a surprise to me, at least. I don't think most people were looking for this news, at least yet, and it came in a lot sooner than expected. Like I was not expecting them to announce it to come out this weekend. You would think maybe they would announce it within like a month or something, but wow, I mean, that's pretty cool to see them getting it integrated that fast. And I know that they're going to have some competitors like FanDuel and a couple of others. I think Caesars is on there too. But in the end, it's really good news for DraftKings. And as we can see, it's actually breaking above the high of yesterday. And hopefully we can get up above the high of pre-market here.
I think the timing cannot be better. It's right ahead of the college football national championship. And then we have the Super Bowl coming up shortly too. So I love the timing on it.
Yeah, that is a really good point, actually. A lot of these big events coming up. And like you pointed out, that championship's huge. The Super Bowl is probably like one of the most betted on games of the year. The NBA is even going on. So it's a really good time for betting. And then obviously it's cold. People are inside watching sports games and stuff right now. So I know that it's not cold in some parts of the country, but in others it's pretty freezing. But yeah, either way, though, a lot of people are watching the games and betting, which is great. So hopefully DraftKings goes up. We honestly need those games to go a lot better than they went last year. I know they reported how a couple of those NFL games went to the favorites, and obviously we need that to maybe go a little bit differently. But man, honestly, it looks like it's forming a pretty good bottom, Mike, and that IV is pretty high. But in the end, though, I can't wait for a rise.
You know it. Alrighty, so we have Elementary saying, "What time is it?" I'm from England, so it's 2:30 in the afternoon. So for me, it is 9:38 a.m. For Tom, it's 8:38 a.m. So yeah, so like I guess the market mainly goes off of Eastern Standard Time. So it's 9:38 a.m. And then we have Manny asking about Starbucks call options with the question mark. So. I mean, maybe for like a longer term play, maybe for the short term, it's not my favorite setup. It had a terrible fall this week.
Yeah, it really did actually. I can't believe that it kept moving down like this. And then it even gapped down again today, right below that 110 support that was holding up pretty strong yesterday. So I don't know what to think about Starbucks. It kind of looks like it's failing to break out above their like 117 resistance. Personally, I just don't like it right here, but I feel like it might be good if it starts to go back on the uptrend, but obviously I would just wait for it.
Exactly. So there was actually bad news with Starbucks. I saw on Thinkorswim News. Starbucks was downgraded by Oppenheimer to perform. It looks like their $130 price target was removed, and it looks like another bank adjusted their price target from 124 down to 122. So it looks like two bad downgrades. It looks like. I mean, they weren't terrible, but still, two downgrades aren't the best, and the stock's not doing too well right now. It's not like a bad play. It's just like if it's short term, I just feel like the momentum's definitely not on your side, and it's not like options are that cheap either.
Yeah, and I will say it's a kind of around support, so it might be decent, but in the end, I don't like the movement right now. And with the bad news, that definitely could make it go down a little bit more in the short term. And we've been seeing some of these value stocks start to go up quite a bit, like for example, like KO, for example, and different stocks like that. It's kind of strange to see Starbucks just going flat within this range.
All right, Tom, let's check back in on good old GME. So I know that news is huge, and they're holding their support pretty well. Like it's right around 150. That's a huge support level. I'm seeing resistance right around 160, and then especially right around 175.
Yeah, I'm seeing those as well. Hopefully this 150 level ends up holding up like you said. Personally, I don't think the setup looks too good in my opinion today. I will say though, that was good news that came out yesterday. So I hope to see them get a pretty nice bounce to the upside here. But I will say I don't like the way that they sold off at open. I was kind of expecting a move to the upside here.
Yeah. It's holding up though. It's up 20%. I'm sure some people took profits right at open. And how about that IV jump, Tom? Right at open, that IV just really popped, and that tells us that people are really bidding up, calls, puts, and everything. It shows that the options pricing is really rising.
Yeah, it is. And to be honest, on the daily chart, it could go up a little bit more too. So hopefully it starts to pop a little bit more. And honestly, it kind of looks like GME double bottomed here on the daily. I know it popped a little bit below, but honestly, it looks pretty good if you're looking at it on a technical level and you're playing it off support.
For sure. All right, so in terms of some plays for today, these China stocks are really running, Tom. Like Baba and Baidu, they're right at their high of day. They have momentum, and I know like Baidu's kind of actually running more than Baba.
Yeah, it is actually. It's starting to really break out. It's up 3.5%, breaking that high of day just continually here. I can't wait to see how these stocks end up moving. I think they've looked so good over the past couple days. Baba looks amazing, I think, too. And to be honest, their daily charts are my favorite, Mike. Like we can see they have these awesome double bottoms that form some pretty good supports down here. And then we even had Charlie Munger get in earlier in the week. That news was honestly so reassuring to me that he got back in. I think it gave a lot of confidence or it honestly made the market a lot more confident in these stocks. And I'm glad to see them starting to really break out. Like in Baba's case, it's starting to break some pretty major resistances here.
You know it. All right, there we go. So I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. So thank you guys so much for joining, and welcome Jamie, Keisha, Mike, George, Vicky, Alex, Hunter, Elementary. We already got Mike, and then Sir C and Manny. So thank you guys so much for joining. You guys know the drill. Let us know what stocks you're watching. We can definitely take a look at them. But so far today, we are seeing a pretty good run on a lot of different growth stocks, Tom. Like it's nice to see you when you look at your watch list and you see DraftKings up 5%, AI up 4.5%, Teladoc up, you could say 4%, Palantir up 3%, Corsair up 3%, Zoom up 1.5%. Like, it's been a while since we were blessed with this type of movement. You there, Tom? Tom, you might be muted. Can you hear me? Oh, let's see. It looks like we lost connection. This is not good. Give us 1 second, guys. Oops. Give me 1 second. Trying to get Tom back really quickly. 1 second. You back, Tom? Let's see. Let me know if you can hear me, Tom. Let's see. All right, Tom, we cannot hear you. So check your audio.
Oh, okay. I had to go to the top of my Zoom and click the unmute button. I guess whenever I rejoined, it muted me for some reason. But looking at these stocks, Mike, this is looking pretty good. But sorry about that, guys. My internet just cut out right there. I don't know what's going on, but I will say it's been snowing by me quite a bit. So they might be like working on some like power lines or something like that. So we'll have to see, how it ends up going today. But hopefully it doesn't cut out again. Normally we just get some lag, but that time it actually totally cut out.
Yeah, I know. We were just in the middle of something, then you just disappeared. I was like, what happened? But it happens. Sometimes my internet goes out too. So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I was just saying that it's been a while since we, we're blessed with this type of movement on a lot of growth stocks. Like, of course, we have DraftKings up, but I even pointed out how we're even seeing some good movement out of even Palantir and AI.
Yeah, those stocks are really moving. Look at Palantir. I know Palantir had that terrible move to the downside yesterday at market open, just like DraftKings did. And it's very nice to see them coming back up. Man, I really hope that they form a good bottom down here eventually. I feel like that since they just broke below support, it probably shook a lot of traders out right there, to be honest. And now people are starting to probably buy it back up. So I'm really glad to see this. And it's so nice to see it. It seems like almost all the growth stocks are up, from Palantir to Corsair to Run even. I mean, it's a very good day in the market, it seems like.
Love to see it. How about that Beyond action? BYND, that one's running.
Yeah, there we go, Mike. I know Beyond was looking awesome yesterday too, and I'm so glad to see it breaking up. Let's look at that daily chart on Beyond. Like that big candle to the upside yesterday was so strong. Like, man, I think it showed that there could be some pretty good movement coming into these growth stocks with how explosive we're starting to see some of these moves to the upside. It's definitely a good day, and honestly, even the marijuana stocks are up. I see Tilray even up there in the green.
Really? It's been a long time since the MJ stocks moved up.
Yeah, it really has. Hopefully they can hold up, because like we can see on Wednesday, they kind of moved up a little bit early in the morning and then tanked off. So I'm praying that they end up staying up here. Like you said, it's been a long time. And looking at the max daily chart, Tilray has a long way to go. Not even back to their all-time highs, just back to this run up of $60. So yeah, they have a long way to go. And I can't wait for some of this legislation for them to come through.
Yeah. All right, we have Sean coming in saying, time to short Zoom. How dare they mute Tom? Speak.
Don't short Zoom. It's looking good.
Yeah, like actually though, like it is looking really good. It's bouncing off that like 171 support, and yeah, and it looks like we're seeing the return of growth stocks. So as much as we'd hate to do it, Sean, we might actually have to buy some shares right now.
Yeah, that's actually what I would do, to be honest. It looks pretty good. It's bouncing right on the support, like you said. And we've been waiting for this for a long time with Zoom. Hopefully it holds up. They can mute me as much as they want if their stock wants to go up. I'll say that.
There we go. All right, we have Kathy saying, Facebook ran yesterday. Do you think it will be a good day trade today? What are some good levels? So, Tom, what are your thoughts on Facebook for a potential day trade today, and what levels do you have?
I think it could be pretty good for a day trade. It's not my favorite with all these other growth stocks moving. I know that we were looking at Baidu and a lot of those other ones that were moving a little bit better. But I will say Facebook looks pretty decent. It looks like it has been getting rejected on this 1,000 SMA lately. Like it hit here and fell. It hit yesterday and fell right there too. It looks like it's kind of getting rejected today there. If we end up breaking out above like 337.50 to the upside, I think we could get a pretty good move out of Facebook. But personally, like I said, I think there's just so many other better setups. I kind of like Facebook for shares, though, to be honest. Like just because it's the metaverse, or you could say meta, but they're supposed to be like getting into the metaverse pretty big, of course, and everything like that. I think it might be pretty good for the long term with shares, but for calls, I do like it. But I just, I would say there's a lot better movers out there.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind is over the past couple of months, we saw, obviously, growth stocks just get destroyed, right? And what stocks went up during that time? A lot of the major market movers, we can say, like Apple or Microsoft or Facebook or even Tesla and Nvidia. So if we are to see the growth stocks pop up, keep in mind that there's a decent chance that we don't see, we're probably not going to see like Nvidia and Apple and Tesla do a full-on crash like the growth stocks did, but there's a decent chance that they pull back. You know what I mean? Like if the money's flowing into growth, it normally comes out of a different area of the market. So keep that in mind. So just know that over the past couple of months, like yes, we saw Apple, Nvidia, AMD, Microsoft, and all these other companies do very well, but we see these rotations every couple months or so, and there's a decent chance, in my opinion at least, that we see some of the capital from Apple and all these other companies shift into other areas of the market, maybe some into growth, maybe some into these value stocks, which I already think we're seeing, and maybe precious metals.
Yeah, precious metals would be a pretty good way to go, actually. I hope that these ones end up going up. I know that GLD has been falling back down a little bit, and with inflation on the rise and with the bad jobs numbers and everything like that, maybe we'll see some pops back to the upside. I think that would be a really cool thing to see. And in the end, I can't wait to see how the market reacts to some of this news. Like, I know that today the SPY is still pretty much flat. Like, we're going back up a little bit, but we still have this major resistance at 470 to look at. And it's going to be tough over the next couple of months, I think, especially with everything weighing down, with rates going up and everything. It's going to definitely change the market spectrum, I think. Like right now, we've been having a pretty strong market, I'd say, for the past year, of course. Like, man, we've just been almost straight up on the SPY constantly. And, I could see a bit of a pullback coming pretty soon.
No doubt. All right. So then we have Alex saying, how are AMD and QQQ? Let's take a look. So looking at AMD, it's definitely lagging behind growth, which I guess you can say is expected. And I expect this to continue. For example, we might see growth up. I mean, hopefully like 10 to 15% over like the next couple of weeks or so, and maybe AMD is, underperforming that. Like honestly, I'm slightly bearish on these chip stocks. So right now, it's definitely underperforming the market, and I can definitely see it continuing. And QQQ is pretty heavily weighted with a lot of other tech stocks, and when they pull back, like Nvidia and AMD and others, like it can definitely just affect like the whole QQQ.
Yeah, it really can, and I can see these ones also going lower, Mike. Like on a technical level, we're seeing lower highs here on these longer term charts. It's never good to see like lower highs like this. It just showed that there was some failed breakouts right there, and we're starting to get to some major supports. Like on AMD, there's a huge support at $130. Like if we fall below that, I don't think it's going to be too good. So looking at AMD, I'm definitely a little bit bearish on it too. Same thing with Nvidia, with a lot of the chip stocks, even like MU and Qualcomm, I think might start to pull back. Now they're doing a little bit better than AMD and Nvidia are, but in the end, I think they'll eventually slow down too. So I really think that these bigger tech stocks, like Mike said, will pull back. And Mike, you've been saying a lot about like rates affecting these tech stocks. Maybe we could go into that a little bit.
For sure. So if we just head over to /ZN really quickly. So I know this is going to be a little bit confusing, but this is the 10-year U.S. Treasury note futures. When these fall, that means rates are rising. So over the past couple of weeks, and especially this week, rates have been rising a decent amount. And when rates rise, it affects everything from mortgages to credit cards to everything. It has a huge impact on like the whole economy. And when rates rise, that really hurts the present day, current valuation of companies that are set to do well in the future. At the same time, it helps companies that are already in like amazing financial positions. So what kind of sucks right now is that rates are really starting to rise as growth stocks are starting to get their momentum back. So this is actually not good, and it might kind of I don't know, like kind of hurt the potential uptrend we're seeing. So that is a downside, but long story short, rates rising is not good for a lot of stocks, and it especially hurts like tech stocks that are set to grow a lot in the future.
Yeah, hopefully it hurts like Apple and like AMD and stocks like that more than it hurts DraftKings and like the growth stocks. I don't know how much it's going to affect either one, but like just looking at it, hopefully DraftKings doesn't get too affected along with some of the other growth stocks. If we see a major transition, hopefully DraftKings just goes up. But like you said, it could definitely hinder the growth. And like for example, like where DraftKings might go up like 30%, are you saying like instead of 30%, we might see like a 20% instead?
Yeah, so like let's say in a normal market where rates are like steady or like even if they were falling, like let's say DraftKings right now at this like awesome level, maybe in a normal market we see DraftKings pop up 30% over the next couple of weeks. But since rates are rising, we might only see it pop up like 15 to 20%. That's just like one potential risk I'm seeing, because rates rising is really not a good thing. And like it definitely hurts these like growth companies like DraftKings a lot more than it hurts like a Microsoft or an Apple or like Walmart or anything like that. But then again though, over the past couple of months, we've been seeing these growth stocks tank down, and I kind of figured it was at least a little bit priced in. And I feel like with rates rising the way they are now, like in these growth stocks, like with DraftKings up 6.5% today, like it's pretty good. So long story short, rates rising, it's not a good thing, but it looks like we're doing decent so far.
Yeah, we are. It's not looking too bad at least, which is good. And hopefully, honestly, like I don't know what happens, but I just hope the transition keeps occurring like this. And hopefully we see DraftKings just keep going up. And, I've even been looking at some of these metaverse plays, Mike, like Matterport, for example, and Unity. Like these are two stocks that are at very good levels. And to be honest, like they had a lot of hype whenever they were running up. Personally, I'm looking at grabbing some shares or shorting some puts on these ones too.
It's not bad, Tom. I really like Matterport, and Unity solid as well. Like, and they're at good levels. That's the main thing. Like, it would be different if we were talking about Matterport when it was at $36 a share, but it's at 17. Like it's kind of like the same argument with Zoom. Like, it would be different if we were like super bullish on Zoom when it was at $570 a share, but when it's at 179, it's a different story. So I don't know. I'm excited right now. Like, I feel like the worst is definitely behind us. Like it would be hard for these growth stocks to continue to fall at the rate that they have been. So I'm excited. It's been a rough couple months, but hey, now's the opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. Like it's going to be a good time for shares. I know personally, I've been getting some, and it might even start to be a good time for like some nice leap options pretty soon. I know that it's been consolidating a little bit here, that probably been hurting some, obviously hurting some options there. But obviously, if we start to get a nice pop, it'll be very nice. And I just can't wait for these stocks to go up. Like Zoom is one of my favorites, especially with their fundamentals. Like I think this company has some of the better fundamentals out of most of the growth stocks. Like, of course, Corsair and DraftKings and everyone like that are decent, but I really like Zoom's fundamentals. But in the end, I think they're all moving pretty good.
100%. There we go. All right, so then we have, Hamdid saying Baba calls with the question mark. So Baba's been powering up. There's a lot of momentum. It's probably pretty good for a day trade. The only thing to just be a little bit careful of is that it's up 5.5% already. So, it's up a decent amount. But then again, we've seen this stock have multiple huge days, and the momentum's definitely there.
Yeah, it really is. It's there and it's definitely running. It could probably continue up a little bit more. Let's see if we can maybe find a bit of a resistance or maybe something coming up. Personally, I feel like we just broke above a huge resistance here. I'm going to plot it right at 130. I think that was such a good resistance. We even confirmed off of it after we gapped up. I could see this one going up a little bit more today, Mike. I could possibly see it hitting 135 at minimum, or possibly there's a bit of resistance here around 137 I'm seeing. So maybe we'll get a pop up to there. I could see it, especially with how it's been moving this week.
For sure. Alrighty. And then we have Shelly saying, good morning. I know we were watching BABA if it popped above 128. Too late to get in for a day trade. So, yeah, I mean, we're in a tough spot right now because, BABA, it's a runner. It has a lot of momentum. It has a good history of having explosive moves. At the same time, it's just, when it's up 5.5%, it's you just got to be a little bit careful. Now, I will say this, Tom, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but, I've been seeing this a lot, especially recently, and it's been happening for a while, but I've noticed that, whether it's with BABA or Apple or DraftKings or whatever, a lot of times we'll see the stock run in phases almost, or waves. So we might see a huge uptrend from market open until, I don't know, maybe 10:30 Eastern time or 11 Eastern time. So the first hour to hour and a half of market open, and then we'll just consolidate maybe for another hour or two, and then later in the day we'll break out. And then sometimes there's a good opportunity to, buy the dip when it's consolidating maybe around lunchtime or something, and then if we have another pop later in the day, that's when you sell. So that's just something to keep in mind, but honestly, this is just total speculation. The market's only been open for 30 minutes, and, it's just a pattern I see sometimes.
Yeah, we kind of saw it yesterday, how it flew up and opened and then dipped back down to that support and then flew right back up. And, it looks like it might be coming back down on the 1 minute chart right now too. So honestly, as it starts to come down, maybe look for it to come back to this 132 support. If you see it touch this and then maybe start to bounce, that could be a good buying opportunity, or maybe down here around 130 or somewhere. You can see yesterday it got really close to that opening price of 124. Right on that support. So it could have been a pretty good buy there, and maybe you could do something like that today too. But I really like the way it came down and opened and touched that 130 support / resistance there. I thought that was a really good confirmation off of that. And honestly, within the first few minutes of open, that would have been a really good opportunity there.
For sure. All right, there we go. Welcome Mason to the stream. Thanks for joining. And then we have George saying Roblox along with Unity and Matterport seems to be at good levels. And then he said Lemonade up more than 10%. Yeah, let's check in on Lemonade. I know a lot of people were talking about this one over the past couple of years, but it's definitely looking pretty good today. It's up 11%. That's more than any other stock on my watch list, so it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it really is. It's having a really good turnaround day. I'm really hoping to see it pop up above this $40 resistance today. I think that would make for a really good move, but it's already up 11%. So we might not be able to get up through there today, but man, if these growth stocks keep turning around, I could see Lemonade starting to turn around on a pretty major level. Like you said, Mike, this stock has had a lot of hype, and it just sucks to see that it fell off to that low again here. It just created a new all-time low yesterday, which was pretty sad to see, but it looks like it's turning back around, and I bet that shook a lot of people out over the past couple days.
Absolutely. Whether you're looking at Lemonade or BABA or DraftKings or Zoom or Corsair or anything, it's been rough, right? And sadly, I feel like a lot of people have sold their positions on these companies at the exact wrong time. It's the same pattern we see over and over again, whether it's with crypto or stocks or whatever. Whenever a company has a lot of hype and it's blasting to the upside, people want to buy then. But when the stocks are low or the cryptos are low, then no one wants to buy. So I just think that's interesting. But I think it's a good time to buy in a lot of these companies right now. We don't know if it's the bottom with any of them, but I feel like there's just a lot of great deals right now for the long term.
Yeah, me too. And like you said, we don't know if it's exactly the bottom, but it could definitely keep going lower. But I really like a lot of these levels right now, and they're pretty far off their highs. Like especially with DraftKings, Zoom, even stuff like Twitter and Snapchat. Even I know those aren't my absolute favorites here in the market, but I really think that these ones are pretty decent too. And it's just like looking at everything, it seems like a lot of stocks are at such good levels lately. Even like PayPal, Affirm, Upstart. We haven't really talked too much about those ones today, but even they're looking pretty decent. I know PayPal is in the red a little bit, but in the end, though, they're still down here right around support, and they had a pretty good day yesterday with the growth stocks.
For sure. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. All right, and then let's see. So we have Sean saying Plug's on the move. Let's take a look at Plug. It's been a while since I looked at this one, but I'll admit, Tom, like this one has been holding its ground better than some of the other growth stocks over like the past couple of months. Like I know they had a huge fall from like 70, but if we look back from like April until now, like it's basically just been flat. Where you look at companies like DraftKings or Zoom or AI or anything else, like it's been pretty rough. But yeah, Plug's been holding up pretty well, and looks like it's getting pretty close to a major support.
Yeah, it is. There's a huge support, like right around like $23 to $25 here. And I really like this $25 support. And, with the rest of the growth stocks bouncing off their supports, like I could see Plug starting to move pretty well off of theirs as well. We're seeing Plug do well. We're seeing RUN doing pretty well. CHPT is doing decent at least. Like a lot of these like EV/charging stocks are doing very well. And I'm glad to see Plug holding up. Like you said, it's holding up a lot better than some of the other ones. So I'm glad to see that. And then, like I know that these are kind of like they're not EV stocks, but they're like charging stocks and stuff like that. Looking at like Lucid and stocks, it's really good to see like Lucid up too, and a lot of these EVs.
Yeah, that is good to see. Very good. All right, so Tom, let's just shift over really quickly. We had Mike saying, wow, what happened to crypto? So I know we've been covering mainly stocks lately, but I definitely want to take a look at this price of Bitcoin that's down to 41K. 41K a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago was at 68. So it's not looking good. You guys know we focus on stocks and options, but the sell-off has been pretty brutal across a lot of different assets lately. Whether we're talking about stocks or crypto or it's been pretty rough lately, and especially with rates rising, it doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't. And for some reason, like the growth stocks are doing pretty well today, and Bitcoin is kind of falling with like Apple and the S&P 500. And well, I shouldn't say like the S&P 500. It's probably holding up decently well still, but it's going down with like a lot of these like tech stocks and stuff. Kind of crazy to see. You wouldn't expect it, but I will say though, like what does make a lot of sense to me, Mike, I just kind of realized is like AMD and Nvidia are so crucial for the price of Bitcoin that I guess if those stocks do a little worse, I guess it makes sense that Bitcoin might go down, because obviously, like Bitcoin is mined using those graphics cards and stuff like that. So obviously it might impact them a little bit, but looking at it going forward here, it's not been looking good. I was actually monitoring this like almost all night last night, Mike. Like this setup has just been looking brutal on the daily chart. Ever since we confirmed off that 52,000 resistance, it's just been looking bad, especially the past 3 days. The sell-off really accelerated.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the day where we can sell puts on Bitcoin. Like that'll be awesome. Like I know technically if we wanted to, we can like sell like a Mara put or a Riot put or maybe even like a BITO put, but I'm talking about like the exact like Bitcoin. Like I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, either way, it's been pretty rough. But even as we said with like growth stocks, like if you're really bullish on Bitcoin or Ethereum, like let's pull up Ethereum really quickly, Tom. Like if you're bullish on either of them, like and you see them falling, now's the time to buy. Like you're probably gonna look back throughout history and be like, man, I should have bought at X price or whatever. Like the main thing I just want to make sure is like I know that like my biggest mistake as a trader was not starting a long-term portfolio soon enough. So like if I can just encourage you to like even like I know like a lot of new traders, they only want to trade like short-term options or day trades or things like that, but like please just make a long-term portfolio and start your growth now, because it'll compound over time. And it was my biggest mistake. Like, I just postponed it. But whether you're holding growth stocks or Apple and the S&P 500 or even Bitcoin, like, it's definitely worth starting.
Yeah, it really is. Like, honestly, that's my biggest mistake too. Like, man, if I would have held some of these stocks that I really liked back in the day, like AMD, Apple, anything pretty much, like it would have done so good. Nvidia, even, like, man, these stocks have really been going up, and it just goes to show that, like, over the longer term, like, you can make quite a bit of money on these stocks. And I, like Mike said, everybody wants to get into day trades. For some reason, they have to day trade all day long, like in and out of positions and everything. And, that is kind of fun. I get it. It's fun. It's addicting. I get why people do it. But in the end, though, like, whenever you're sitting there taking, like, maybe 5 trades, 10 trades a day, and you're not really making too much money, maybe you should, like, evaluate what you're doing and maybe say, well, look, I'm taking a lot of these shorter term positions. Maybe I need to transform my trading. Maybe I should start taking some long-term positions and some short-term positions. You can always mix it up a little bit. It doesn't mean you should just, go put all your money into, like, all these stocks for the long term, but it's definitely good to mix it up.
For sure. All right, we have Jerry saying he'll start a long-term portfolio, Tom. There we go, Jerry. I'm waiting for it. And I'm also waiting for you to sell some puts too. I know it might be a little it might not be as fun as the day trades at first, but Jerry, I know you'll love selling puts. Like, all you have to do is, like, let's say you sold, like, an Affirm put or DraftKings or AI or any stock you like. Like, you just sell the put and you just sit back and you just watch it decay. And in the worst case scenario, let's say you're down, just roll it out. Like, if you're down, just roll it out. And as long as at some point in the future the stock closes greater than your short put strike price, you will win. So it's an awesome strategy, and I'm very happy because it sounds like you're gonna start selling some puts. So that's awesome. But
yeah, it is awesome. It's such a good strategy. I'll be honest, Jerry, it transformed my trading once I started doing it, and I think it'll definitely transform yours, and honestly anybody else watching. Like, it's such a good strategy. We have some awesome videos here, and as we start to look at some stocks, I'll go look up some of the videos, Mike, and post them in the chat for us.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Vicky said, gosh, Mike, you're still very young, and then hit the like. So, yeah, I mean, it never hurts to start as early as possible, but thank you guys so much for joining. And if you guys like the stream, it would mean so much to us if you could hit that like button. If not, it's okay, but we would greatly appreciate it. Then we have Bravo saying, I really want to average more. Oh, sorry, no. He said, good morning, guys. What's the reason behind DraftKings pop? Is it because we're close to the January 15th NFL playoffs? And then we have a Hunter with some good information saying their app is launching in New York this weekend. Bravo said, I really want to average more to DraftKings here, but I'm going to wait till I see some long-term breakouts, maybe at $30. So, long story short, DraftKings and other growth stocks are trending up, just as growth stocks are they're getting their momentum back. But with specifically DraftKings, like Hunter said, their app is launching in New York this weekend on Saturday. It's right ahead of the college football national championship. Then we have the Super Bowl coming up too, so it's looking pretty good. We have some pretty big catalysts in the works, and honestly, it's just, in my opinion, the stock should have never been this low. But then again, I'm pretty biased toward DraftKings. But either way, growth stocks are doing pretty well right now, and it definitely has some really good news.
Yeah, that news is going to be really good. New York is going to bring in a ton of customers for DraftKings. That's a big state, obviously. One of the biggest states in the country, behind like California and Texas and maybe Florida. I know that those states are going to be big as well for DraftKings, and a lot of those still need to be legalized. I know Texas and California for sure. I'm not sure, Mike, is Florida, is it allowed there yet?
It's tricky. Like, they're trying to get it done, but we're not good yet.
Yeah, same thing where I am. I'm in Missouri, and it's not looking too good here either yet. But I know in Illinois, right across the border, it's good, and I can go drive apparently to the Casino Queen there, and apparently DraftKings actually has a sports book there. So if DraftKings is getting sports books in these casinos, that's pretty good news for them too. And honestly, I just can't wait to see what happens with New York. Like once we start to see their numbers, like we said, Mike, their next earnings report might start to turn it around a little bit.
And we all know that they've been spending a ridiculous amount of money just advertising, right? Like their marketing is pretty crazy. Some say it's too much, but either way, I'm excited to see the results that happens from all this insane marketing. Like for me, I see it all over the internet. I see DraftKings all over TV. Like they have that huge deal with the UFC. So they're really trying hard to establish that like market dominance. And now's the time to do it. I know it's a pretty close race between DraftKings and FanDuel, and I don't know, Tom. We're set for some pretty exciting times over the next couple months, but especially over the next couple of years.
Yeah, the next couple of years are going to be really cool, I think, for DraftKings and just sports betting in general. I know some people just like to do that in general, so I guess it can be fun if you enjoy that too. And in general, a lot of sports have a lot of ways to grow the market. Like it's not just even like the betting. Like DraftKings is now into the NFTs, and these people have like exclusive NFTs like Tom Brady and Wayne Gretzky and like Tiger Woods and all these crazy celebrity like athletes and stuff. So it's there's a lot more even than just the betting on there.
Exactly. Alrighty, so looking back through some of these comments, it looks like we have W asking about GameStop and then Lucid. So GameStop is not looking the best, but it's definitely holding up, kind of. It's below that 150 support, which is not good to see, but it's not looking terrible.
Yeah, it's not looking too bad. I like how it's holding this like 145 support today. It did fall below 150, which was unfortunate. So hopefully we can get back up above that, like Mike said. But yeah, it's not my favorite setup today, especially with a lot of these other stocks moving in the green since market open. I like those ones a little bit more, but I will say I'm still eyeing up GameStop because they had that good news yesterday. I feel like they could start to pop at some point.
For sure. All right, and then he also mentioned Lucid. So what are you thinking with that one?
I kind of like it. I'll tell you, this one's been having a very good past 2 days. It's been moving up kind of like DraftKings has, kind of like Fastly, a lot of these growth stocks. It has very similar movement to those. I will say it's a pretty hyped up stock. They had some pretty good numbers come out last year and stuff, and it looks like they had a pretty good bounce on this I would say like 33.50 support, I could say, down here at the bottom, but it looks like it's coming up pretty well. And I like the stock, Mike, but personally, it's a little bit risky. I like it better than some of these other growth stocks down here, but at the same time, it's a little bit higher than some. Like, for example, like Corsair would be all the way down here like at $20, or DraftKings or Zoom even, stocks like that. Lucid has had a little bit more hype this year, and it's done a little bit better. So it's going to be a little riskier, I think, buying it higher, but I still like it for shares.
I gotcha. There we go. All right, and then we have Bravo saying, also, can you guys look at Visa again? It received a downgrade today, but the stock is good in my opinion. So Visa, it's a solid company. You can't really go wrong with them. If I'm being honest, I do think we will definitely retest like maybe like 205 or so. But again, they're a solid company. They should be awesome for the long term. They've been doing very, very well over the past couple of years and even over like the past decade. So you can't really go wrong with them. But in the short term, I can see them falling just a little bit more.
Yeah, I could see them also going down. It looks like they hit some pretty big resistance here and started having a bit of a downtrend. So I could see them possibly like bouncing off of support coming up, like maybe like around like 215 or somewhere like that, kind of like where they bounced the other day. But looking at it, I think Visa could start to recover back. It's just, it's kind of like one of those more established companies. And I feel like it's kind of like in the middle of a range right now, and it could go either way.
Yep. All right. And then let's see. Then we have Mike saying, you're absolutely right. I'm 44, had Apple for 10 years, and it's paid off well. Unfortunately, I haven't been averaging as much as I wanted to, but still, I think it goes to show you, like, when you just hold solid companies over time, great things happen. So Tom, 10 years ago, Apple was trading at like what level? Like $20, 15? What was
Yeah,
it?
somewhere like 15 to 20. I'll just go to like 16 to make it a little bit even. But if I drag this all the way up to the top, I mean, you're talking about a 985% increase on the stock. Like that's pretty insane, over 10 years. That's about averaging 100% a year. Could you imagine some funds averaging 100%? That'd be pretty good.
Jeez, I mean, 985%, I'll take it. There we go. But yeah, it's awesome. And then you also got those dividends with Apple too. And another thing to keep in mind is like if you buy and hold, the tax rate will be lower because it's a long-term capital gain. So it's pretty awesome. And, just imagine like, if you just start buying quality companies now, whether you're 20 or you're 50 or whatever age, like, if you buy solid companies and you just hold, historically it is done very, very, very well. So that's awesome. You could also set up like IRAs and 401ks and all that stuff too to even give you more benefits.
Yeah, those IRAs are really beneficial. I know Hunter actually even trades, he sells puts and stuff in his IRA, which is really smart to do. And, you could definitely set stuff up like that. And if you guys are interested, maybe come in the Discord and like ask Hunter or Mike or somebody about about setting up an IRA for that, because I know that Hunter definitely does it.
There we go. All right, and then we have Anderson saying, "Good morning, fellas. Your thoughts on DDOG, CRM, CrowdStrike, and Vuzi for a long-term meta play? Thanks." So, looking at DDOG, I've heard a lot of great things about them. They're at a decent level. They're getting really close to that 140 support. Honestly, I can't see this one pulling back a little bit more as well, maybe like 130, but if it's a longer term play, your best bet is probably to just like average in.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I think averaging in would definitely be the smarter way. It's kind of interesting on this setup right here, Mike. Like sometimes, like whenever we see these type of candlesticks on the daily chart, sometimes the stock starts to slow down and it starts to come back. And then sometimes, it might fall with a huge another like red candle through the 140 support. Like this type of setup is kind of crazy how it's starting to really slow down like this. I could definitely see it starting to move big, at least one way or the other. But yeah, I would definitely say average in with shares. That would be the smarter way to go. And this stock has been pretty explosive the past couple of years, so it could keep pulling back.
Yep. And then CRM, I think Nancy just got in this one, right?
Who?
Nancy Pelosi. Didn't she just buy this?
Oh, yeah, Nancy. Yeah, I believe she did. Yes. Whenever you said Nancy, I was like, who?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Nancy Pelosi just recently took a bullish position on this. It has not been doing too well lately, but, then again, Salesforce is a pretty solid company. If we're talking about long-term shares, I definitely think it's at a good level.
Me too. I think Salesforce is pretty good. They're going to be I think they're going to be pretty strong for the next few years, even though they've had a couple bad legs to the downside here. I feel like they might start to consolidate at least at some of these major supports coming up.
Right, and then we have CrowdStrike, CRWD. This one's also at a good level, solid company, and we're pretty close to that 180 support. If we're talking about shares, I also think this is a good one.
Yeah, me too. Personally, this one might be my favorite one that we've mentioned so far. I really like CrowdStrike for the long term. I think they're going to do pretty good. And kind of like what we've been seeing, they've been doing a lot of marketing as well. Like I've been seeing them like all over like Formula One and just all types of stuff.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Vuzi, V-U-Z-I. Honestly, I don't know about this company. I've heard mixed things about it. Their stock has been doing okay. I guess you could say over the past couple months it's been really bad, but if we zoom out, it's been pretty good. So honestly, I don't know enough about this company to say anything, so I'm going to stay neutral.
Yeah, me too. I would say I was hoping it would bounce off some of these supports. I think someone brought it up the other day. If it does end up holding like around $8, it could end up being good, but with the way it's moving today, I wouldn't bank on it. It's going down while some of the growth stocks are going up.
Yeah, so I'm looking into this company's like website and things like that, and they describe themselves as a pioneer in wearable computing, augmented reality, waveguide, optics, and display engines, and things like that. My concern is like that's awesome. It sounds really great, but it's like, don't we have some major competitors in this space like Google, Microsoft? I'm sure Apple's working on something, and I could have swore even Snapchat and like Oracle were working on things pretty similar to this.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know who owns the company Oculus, but that's another company that's been working on stuff like that as well. That might be like Nvidia or something even.
Thought that was no, that's Meta, Tom. Facebook.
Oh, Facebook owns Oculus. Okay,
Yeah.
well that they're gonna have competition there too. And like you mentioned, Mike, I know Snapchat was even didn't they have like Snapchat glasses like a couple of years ago even?
It was something like that. I don't know. Like honestly, I don't follow like this specific industry too much, so I'm not like not an expert in this specific type of industry. But either way, I mean, for Vuzi, it sounds like they're working on some really cool things. I don't really know too much about them, but I do know that it looks like they have some pretty strong competitors.
Yeah, definitely be careful with them because it's going to be a tough go. And, they are pretty low right now. I feel like it could be a good buy if you really like them for the long term. But just keep in mind, like Mike said, they have a lot more competitors and their competitors are a lot more established too.
Yeah, like it's one thing if we're talking about, I don't know, DraftKings, for example. Like, yes, there's a lot of competitors that DraftKings has, but DraftKings is like one of the leaders in their market. You know what I mean? So it's like it's okay to have a lot of competitors, and that's a good thing. It's just preferably you'd like to be in like the top spot or at least like up there.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe Vuzi will get a good deal with somebody, or maybe they're working on something, but we'll have to see what ends up coming out. And personally, I just don't like the chart movement. Like if the chart movement was moving pretty good, like maybe if it was holding up like Zoom or something, I would honestly probably say I liked it a little bit better. But with the way it's down, it's not looking too good, especially today. Like we're seeing lots of the growth stocks in the green and this one's lagging behind.
True. All right, we have Jerry saying Rivian shares. Rivian's down another 5% today. Tom, they've been losing a lot of market cap lately, so it's not good. They're definitely a hype stock, and they're definitely trending lower.
Yeah, definitely. Personally, I think it'll start to be pretty good for shares here eventually, but I just don't know when. I honestly, like, if I was going to start averaging in, personally, I might start doing it now if I really like the company. But, keep in mind, I might only go in like 1/10 of my position here because who knows how low this thing could go. We've seen some of these EV stocks go crazy over the past few years to the downside and the upside. So we'll have to see how it ends up playing out. But personally, I don't like the movement today. It definitely seemed a little bit bearish, and it's confirming off some pretty major resistances here, like that 87.50 level this morning. We touched it and just went straight down. Like it's just a pretty bad movement today.
Awesome stuff. So we have Alex saying, what's your view on the overall market for today? Seems like it's selling off now, or would you just go flat? So the market itself is back and forth, but we're seeing good movement out of growth plays and plays that have been struggling lately. So to answer your question, for the market overall, we're just seeing consolidation, so I don't see an opportunity there for today. But with growth plays like Beyond or like Alibaba, maybe RCL, Teladoc, like we're seeing good movement out of certain industries, and those are the industries that we should focus on. So, even Boeing's looking decent. So just the stocks that have been, I guess you could say, neglected over the past couple of months, like it looks like they're the ones that are showing the movement. So those are the ones I'm focusing on. The market, there's just I feel like I can't judge the direction clearly enough, so I'm not gonna try to force something.
Yeah, me either. And honestly, like some of these setups are looking pretty good back to the upside. Like we pointed out here with Boeing, like it's setting up pretty well. It's starting to break some of these little technicals here on the 1 minute chart, which might end up holding up. We'll have to see. But, lots of stocks are in the green. Even the banks are in the green. So I don't know. Like I would think that the SPY would start to fall down with some of those major tech stocks. But, if the rest of the market's green, it might end up just going flat, kind of like what we're saying. But, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we're seeing stocks like AMD still start to fall off, and even like Nvidia is still in the red pretty deep. So it's not looking good for those stocks. And maybe the QQQ is going to do a little bit worse today than the SPY.
Yeah, I would think so, because Like you said, we have like Nvidia selling off, and at the same time, some of the other companies, like more value type plays, are holding up better. So
Yeah, look
it's
at Disney.
yeah, exactly. That's like slowly moving up, and it's breaking out right now.
Yeah, it looks pretty hot. I mean, I could not believe to see Disney up today too. Like, man, it's a pretty good day for a lot of these beaten down stocks. And I don't want to say Disney's a growth stock, but I'm glad they're going up with them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so then we have George saying, do you guys hold a position in SPY for the long term, even if not a major one? Question for both chat and Mike and Tom. So I'm mainly focused in like growth plays or just or industries that I specifically think will do well over the next like 5 to 10 years. Just due to like my risk tolerance, I feel like that makes more sense. You can't go wrong with the SPY. As we can see, it's like almost a perfect uptrend over like the past, like especially over the past 10 years, but even over the past couple of years. So you can't really go wrong with the SPY, but given my risk tolerance, I really like the sports betting industry, the solar industry. I'm a big fan of like the game, like I guess you could say like esports. We can say that. I just have like a whole list of industries that I'm really bullish on, like electric vehicles and things like that. And yeah, so I just focus on those for now.
Yeah, me too. I'm not really getting too much into the SPY. I like the SPY though, but I will say that obviously the SPY is more diverse and it's not going to grow maybe as fast as some of these other stocks. Now, with that being said, I will say over the past couple of years, it's been looking pretty hot, but keep in mind, historically, the SPY doesn't shoot up maybe as quick as it has been, but I still like it in the end. And it's obviously going to be good to hold for the long term, and you can implement some pretty good strategies on the SPY. Like personally, I feel like doing like some pretty crazy stuff, but I will say, Mike, I'm more of like you, where I would rather just get some stocks in specific sectors and maybe like build up your own fund. You know what I mean? Like the ARK funds, they have like the ARK Innovation Fund, like ARKK, that's comprised of a bunch of different stocks. And I almost like to treat my portfolio like my own fund, just get my own stocks that I like and just diversify a little bit.
Exactly. And then George said, same, I don't have any ETFs. I've been focused on growth stocks, but lately, So, yeah, I definitely know what you mean. It hurts when you're looking at your portfolio and you're like, how is this down that much? And then you're like looking at the market and it's at all-time highs and you're like, what? So I definitely know what you mean. And with that being said, like if the SPY just tanked down, I would be open to buying the dip for sure, and even selling puts. But given just everything, I personally feel like for my risk tolerance, it's just smarter to, get the stocks that are like really low right now that should do very well over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I do too. I think that'll be a little bit smarter of a way to go. And especially right now, like the SPY's been running and running and running, and who knows, it might start to slow down here for a little while, especially like as we start to see this transition happen. And, I would definitely start to look at buying it for the longer term too. And honestly, like the SPY is good for a lot of, like, we have to look at it in a way of like a lot of like institutions are buying up the SPY, like we're seeing like, for example, like if you have like longer term like IRAs with companies like Edward Jones or like like some type of company that like has certain funds, like they're probably buying up a lot of the SPY and different stuff like that. And I feel like that's where the SPY is a little bit more useful, is just to use it as like maybe a hedge in your portfolio or something.
Yeah, and it also really comes down to risk tolerance. Like if you're in your 20s, maybe you're open to more risk, and maybe the SPY isn't right for you. But if you're in like your 60s or 70s or something like that, like it makes sense to be in the market and to be more diverse. So there's a lot that goes into it. Hunter said, so it looks like he's not in the SPY, but he plans on it once he builds his portfolio up more. He said technically if you buy SPY and sell covered calls a few percentage points out of the money, you'll outperform the market every year. So that's interesting. I haven't looked into that, but I'm very curious, Hunter, if that, like how that strategy performed over the past 2 years. Because I know that over the past 2 years, nobody, like especially market makers, no one was expecting to see the type of explosive movement to the upside that we saw. So like I'm curious if by using that strategy, if you might have missed out on some gains. But you're right though. Selling covered calls plus holding a solid stock is an amazing way to go, and it's a really powerful strategy.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe you could just keep like even if you like lose out on the gains, maybe you could just buy into SPY again, and then do some more covered calls and just keep doing it over and over and over. And who knows? Maybe it'll do well. And honestly, like I'm kind of interested to see if there's been any like institutions that have done that strategy. Like I'm definitely going to look that up after this. It was definitely interesting once I read that.
Tom, check out QYLD. This is an ETF that actually focuses on doing covered calls. So QYLD, so like my last name, D. Yeah, so this is kind of disappointing actually. Like if we look at like a daily chart, with all of the explosive movement we saw, like if we look at like a daily chart, Tom, like over the past couple of years or so, out of all the explosive movement we saw with like the NASDAQ and the SPY, and then we see these types of results on this ETF, like that kind of worries me a little bit. But again, I don't know. I forgot the exact like percentages they go out of the money and what their strategy is. But I don't know. This is interesting.
Yeah, and honestly, I would think maybe like if you just kept selling puts on the SPY as it kept going up. Honestly, I think that sounds like a bit of a good strategy as long as the as long as the implied volatility and stuff made out good enough for it, or the pricing was there. But looking at it, it looks like it probably wasn't over the past few years. The SPY, I know that has normally some pretty good pricing, but it's usually pretty volatile. And like for example, like Amazon probably has a lot higher premiums than the SPY, of course.
Yeah, and then Hunter said like you could always roll it if it's going to get called away. And while that is a good point, if we look at like another daily chart on the SPY, Tom, like if we looked at just like a random date, I don't know, let's say June 1st of 2021. Let's say you were holding shares of the SPY. At the time, the SPY was at like 420. Let's say your cost average or your dollar cost average was like 400. And let's say you sold like the 430 strike call. And then by the time we get to November, like the SPY's at like 470. Like yes, you can keep rolling it, but it's like if the market just keeps going up, then it's like there's going to be a point where like you can roll it, but it's just going to be like it's not going to make sense anymore. But I definitely know what you mean. It's definitely a strategy that I've thought about. I love selling puts, and covered calls are amazing. I'm just curious about doing it on the SPY. Like I'd really have to look into it. And I know like the past 2 years are like the worst example because the movement we've seen is so explosive to the upside where it makes like the covered call strategy not look the best. But I feel like in a normal market, like kind of like Hunter said, like that strategy should do very, very well.
Yeah, it should at certain times. Like you said, there might be certain times it doesn't do too well, but I would think if you timed it right and you played your cards the right way, I think it would be pretty good. But in the end, we'll definitely have to look into it a little bit more. But man, getting into some of these stocks that are moving a little bit more today. Let's go back to those like China stocks, man. See how they're holding up. You think they kept going, and unfortunately, it looks like they're starting to pull back a little bit here. Hopefully, like Lucid and some of these stocks keep running. I know Lucid was pretty hot a few minutes ago, and man, some of these airlines are starting to climb up here. Like I got Delta at the top of my watch list now.
Crazy. Crazy stuff, Tom. Well, do you have any last minute plays or anything before we wrap up the stream?
Oh man, I mean, it's been a pretty good day. I'm glad to see this like double continuation out of like DraftKings and a few of these stocks. I really hope it holds up today. It's up 4.4%, so hopefully it does. But as we've seen, it's been crazy over the past few months. But hopefully we start to see like a bit of another like kind of like we talked about earlier, like maybe a midday resurgence, or maybe like if we go up and break this 28 resistance, we might start to have a bit of a move back to the upside. And I'm really liking the setups on DraftKings, Boeing, and a few others. I think Boeing was setting up pretty nice here, so I'm definitely eyeing up a few stocks to the upside today.
There we go. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We had an awesome stream, and we really appreciate all of you guys joining. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and have an amazing rest of your day.